All right, guys, today I have a phone call with Aljamain, the MMA fighter, world champ. Unbelievable. This is a great conversation where him and I talk about some of his questions around creative finance, and I propose a business alliance with him, and I propose an opportunity with him because I'm trying to do more deals with more influencers, so check it out.
The Funk Master delivers.
What's up, champ? How you doing?
Good. How's it going, brother?
Really good, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I was just saying to myself, this is like probably the equivalent of me doing a private lesson with someone interested in getting started in my sport.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that, yeah, for sure. But you've got a little bit different of an advantage, I think, over most people, which is kind of cool, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So you live in Vegas, right?
I live in Vegas, and I still have my residence in New York. I have 2 houses in New York. I bought a house for my mom 3 years ago, and then I have my one house, which is my primary, obviously for tax purposes as an athlete. I just like Vegas way better.
Yeah. So I buy a lot of deals in Vegas, and the way that I buy real estate, I'm not sure if you completely know what I do, but the way I buy real estate is usually 99% of the real estate that I own, which is about 2,000 rentals right now. 99% of those were purchased with no credit checks. I didn't use any banks. I don't need a job. Nobody pulls my credit. Nobody's pulling anything of my bank records or any of that kind of stuff. It's either one of 2 ways I'm buying the real estate. Either A, the seller is doing seller finance, which it sounds like you understand seller finance, or B, the seller is letting me take over their existing payments, right? So kind of like with car payments, people say, like, you could go to leasetrader.com and you could find somebody that's willing to just let go of their lease on their car. So it's similar to that with a house. It's just somebody already has a bank loan. They let me just take the bank loan over. I don't have a credit check. I go through a title company and I just take it over. Like today, I've got a property. This one's not in Vegas. I just closed in one on Vegas a couple of days ago, but I got one in Phoenix today, 2.3% interest. And so I'm turning all of them into rentals, one form or another. Sometimes it's just a regular rental. I'd say 70% of what I do is I just rent them out to a regular tenant. The other 30% of the time, I'm renting them out to like midterm rentals, nurses, doctors, people like that, because the house just fits a specific neighborhood. And sometimes it's an Airbnb. I don't do a lot of Airbnb anymore. I have 70 of them, and I'm just kind of over that business model.
Yeah.
But from time to time, they do work, and they have to be in really, really strategic locations. Like all my Vegas properties started out as Airbnbs, but as regulation came out, we converted all of them to either midterm rental, which is like, traveling nurses, or we converted a lot of them to co-living. Do you know what co-living is?
It's kind of like house hacking almost?
Very similar, yeah, very similar to house hacking. There's a company we use, it's called Pad Split, if you want to write that down and do some research on it. Pad Split.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that. I think it was the one you just released.
Yes. So Pad Split's a good company that just helps you fill multiple tenants into one house.
Okay.
So
is that legal in Vegas? Because I know their Airbnb laws are so ridiculous. It's literally like friends helping friends. You can't get the lotto. Like an average person is not winning the lotto to get the approval or the license to do an Airbnb. And then in Henderson, it has to be like about 1.5 miles away in a radius in order to do it. It's crazy over there.
Yeah, it is. So that's why I had 15 Airbnbs in Vegas. I have 0 Airbnbs in Vegas at this point, and I've converted all of them to co-living. What's cool about co-living is it's actually protected by the government. It's a protected class of renters, which is affordable housing. And so no HOA can tell you no. They can yell at you and scream at you all they want, but they can't tell you no. And nowhere is it regulated that co-living is not possible. Now, we try and stay away from HOAs for obvious reasons, but most of the houses that I have now are in Vegas are either a rental, like just a regular rental, or they are co-living being managed through Pad Split. Okay. So so now you kind of know what I do. I would say at this point I've scaled. So I have a really big team. They find deals for me. They negotiate all the deals. They, literally A to Z, I'm not involved in most of the transactions that my company touches. My company now, I'd say we're focusing 80% of our time on buying multifamily, larger assets, and we are doing that also with seller finance and taking over payments. So for example, this week I'm closing on a $7 million RV park in Montana, right next to Glacier National Park. That's all seller finance. I think it's 85% seller finance, and like 10% of it is I'm taking over, existing owner has an SBA loan, a small business association loan, and I'm just taking over the payments. So it's a total of 95% creative finance, and I'm just coming in with 5% of that total purchase. So that purchase is like 7 million, I think, roughly, and I'm coming in with $350,000. Okay. Now, that is a deal I'm just doing by myself. So that's my own cash, or sometimes I'll just go to like a private money lender and I'll go, hey, private money lender, whether it's my uncle or my brother or one of my students or whatever it is, I'll say, hey, I need 350 grand for a year, and they are the ones that cover that down payment. Cool. Where you fall in line, okay? So this is the same thing I did with Grant. This is the same thing I'm trying to do with Graham Stephan. Real estate is a very interesting niche, okay? So if you're trying to gain influence in real estate, which obviously I'm trying to gain influence in my niche, you're trying to gain more influence in your niche for obvious reasons, right? Like brand deals, and more exposure means more fights or better managers or whatever it is that you're looking for. All of that comes from more influence, obviously, right? Do you know Graham Stephan?
I forget. I know the face.
Yeah, he's a real estate guy in Vegas.
Yes.
And he's got like 5 million subscribers on YouTube. He's like one of the bigger people in real estate.
Yep.
So here's where Graham Stephan kind of blew up, is he started thinking more global, okay? So he stopped talking US real estate. Because think about it, you know this really well. UFC or everything that you do is a global conversation. Everybody across the country and the world is talking about you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about my niche. My niche is United States, so I've basically deleted 90% of the population of the world. Now take it down one more level, I'm talking about real estate. Now go down another level, and I'm talking about creative finance real estate. So I'm like a niche within a niche within a niche, right? So a couple of years ago, I'm like, man, how do I get more eyeballs on what I'm doing, right? How do I get more investors? How do I get more opportunities? How do I get more houses thrown my way? I'm at a point now where about 20% of the properties that we buy just come from my influence. People call me off my YouTube, or they call me off my Instagram, and they go, hey, I can't afford my house anymore. Will you just take over my payments? And of course the answer is yes, right? So my goal is, how do I get more of that? Well, go back to Graham Stephan. What did Graham Stephan do? He stopped talking about only real estate about 5 years ago, and he started talking about what's the best credit card to get. He started interviewing people like Papa John. He started interviewing people that were global sensations, and he started getting a lot more eyeballs, because now he was obviously important to people in Japan and China and all these other places, because he wasn't just talking about United States real estate. So for me, I go to guys like Graham, and I go to people like Grant, and even Big Boi from Outkast, right? He's been a good friend for the last couple of years. I go, hey, I look up to you. And the best form of flattery, in my opinion, is bringing something of value to you that you can make money on without me asking for anything in return, other than we just collaborate. And so, of course, Big Boi, his son is a student in my program, and so that's how we originally met. You got Big Boi brings all his managers involved, and is like, okay, there's got to be a catch. This guy, Pace, is trying to steal your influence. He's trying to do this, he's trying to do that. Well, after knowing each other for over a year, he finally was like, okay, dude, you're obviously you have a TV show on A&E, which is owned by Disney. You've got a lot going for you. You're connected to all these people, and you're doing a lot of deals. What do you want to do with me? What do you want to do with Big Boi? And I go, dude, all I want to do is real estate deals with people I look up to. That's it. I want to collaborate with people so that we can do content, we can talk about it, and how it benefits you, I'll get to in just a minute. So the way I started with Big Boi is I bought this big apartment complex in Illinois. And I said, let me just make your life easy. I'm going to gift you 5 of the 250 apartments. I'm going to gift you 5 of them to whatever LLC you want, just to show you that this is how serious I am. And like literally, that's what I do. And the advantage I have is I have this advantage where I can buy a lot of real estate with no money down. And so for me, bringing somebody into a partnership really doesn't cost me anything other than I'm foregoing the ownership of that property to somebody else. But it wasn't money out of my pocket today, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So like with Graham Stephan, I go on his podcast and I tell him, here's how I buy real estate, here's how I do this. He's like, how is this even possible? And I go, Graham, Let me show you. So if you go watch the episode I did with Graham and myself about 4 or 5 months ago, it has like 400,000 views, I think almost. He's like, how is this even possible? It doesn't even seem real. And I go, Graham, I will find you a deal that you and I can collaborate on in the next 3 days in Vegas within 10 miles of your house. And I will make it so you're a 50% owner on that property and you won't have to cut a check for it. And he's like, why? And I go, because I want to collaborate with you. I want to be on your platform. I want you to be on my platform, and I want to collaborate. And this is the way that I do business. I want to bring something to you of value. And I go, here's what'll happen, Graham. I'm going to give you 3 houses. You're going to say no to all 3 because you think I'm full of And then what's going to happen is on the 4th house, you're finally going to say yes. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, this guy is actually serious. And so what's happened since that podcast, I think 4 months ago, is I've bought 3 houses, which he said no to all 3. They're all deals that he would have been in, no money out of pocket, no credit check. He wouldn't have to manage it. I have 600 employees. We manage all their assets ourselves. And all I wanted him to do was show his audience that I do what I say I do. And for that, I would have brought him in as a 50% owner. Now, Jack, his co-host on there, is like, dude, I cannot believe we've turned down 3 things. Like the next house that we do, 100% the answer is yes. And so what I did is I went to Vegas, I filmed at all 3 houses, and I showed like, hey Graham, you turned this house down. Now look what it looks like. It's now pumping money out, and you could have been a 50% owner on the appreciation, on the tax benefits, on the cash flow, on the mortgage pay down. Like you would have had all of this with no money out of pocket. And so I do that to send him a message like, hey, I'm serious, right? So as a real estate guy, if I go collaborate with people I already look up to and I get to hang out with them and we do cool shit together, then my way of paying for that is I go, hey, let's go do content at one of these houses that we own together, and I'll break down how we bought the property, what we're doing to manage it, how much money it's bringing in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we get to collaborate in that regard. Now, there's a level even larger than this, other than just a couple of single family homes, which is like I could snap my fingers and next week you and I would own 5 houses in Vegas together next week, okay? Not literally, but like literally it would probably be in 90 days you and I could own 5 houses together in Vegas. You would have 50% ownership of all 5, let's say. I'm just making up numbers. You would have no responsibility other than telling a story of like, hey, I'm collaborating and buying more real estate. And you tell the people in your industry who are horrible at managing their money, you say, I'm doing this with my money. I'm investing in real estate. I'm doing this, blah, 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 which is a good story for the people that follow you because they're like, you don't want to waste all your money on Lamborghinis and stupid shit, obviously. Now, here's the layer above it. I'm talking fast because I want to make sure I have time for you to ask questions and for us to go back and forth.
No, I understand that. Trust me, I'm on the same page as you.
Cool. So the level above that is this. If I go do 10 or 15 real estate deals with you, 10 or 15 real estate deals with Big Boi, right? Now, Big Boi goes on his social media and he says, yeah, I'm doing real estate with this guy. If anybody ever wants to invest with me and do big real estate deals with me, hit me up at blah, 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 blah.com, right? Whatever it is. What ends up happening is my team, and you should fly down to Arizona and meet my team if this is something of interest. My team, yeah, that'd be great. So my team finds big apartment deals. We manage big apartment deals. The majority of the way we finance the apartment deals is with seller finance. Okay, so it's on brand for me, Mr. Creative Finance. And then we go out to my audience and we raise capital. Like in the last 90 days, we raised like $25 million to go out. And I'll give you a good example. There's a property in Tucson. We just bought 160 units, 85% seller finance, and the seller wanted a 15% down payment. Cool. No problem. That's a $15 million purchase. So $15 million with a 15% down payment, you're looking at like nearly $3 million, somewhere around there, okay? Why $3 million? Well, because you're not just putting the down payment, you're also paying for closing costs and realtor fees, and you're paying for, now we're gonna go out and renovate the property and raise the rents, right? All the traditional stuff that Grant Cardone does, okay? Where does that money come from? Where's that $3 million come from? Well, it comes from my current audience, okay? Now, what's cool is my team finds the deal, manages the deal, deals with the cash flow, distributes the checks to the investors every single month. My team does all of that. Somebody like you're like, okay, I want to buy more real estate. Okay, well, champ, you know that like there's 1,000 different ways to buy real estate without any of your own money.
So I have my questions. I don't know if you still
Yeah,
have
yeah,
some
yeah.
time.
I got time. Yeah.
When I was looking at the seller finance, so my realtor who actually sold me my house, he's from Long Island, but he lives in Vegas now too. He actually, when I told him I was going to talk to you, he kind of geeked out, which is pretty funny, because he was like, dude, I got to get in a room with him. I got
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. We're talking about the interest rate. So I guess one of my questions is, so if I negotiate a 0% interest rate, that's obviously in the favor of the buyer. I guess if there is an interest rate on it, is there like a software for a calculator that I would use to kind of make it simple and easy to kind of know what my monthly pay? Like say they gave me a 4% on the terms,
Yeah.
because I know there's usually like a balloon afterwards. So I figure for me,
We don't really buy too many houses with balloons, but yes, sometimes balloons exist.
okay, at some point I would imagine that the seller would want to get all their money.
No. So here's the answer on the question. So it depends on the seller. Every seller that we do, like I'm not just going into a random neighborhood and knocking on doors and saying, hey, will you give me a 4% interest rate on your seller finance, right? Because the homeowner is going to say, first off, why are you knocking on my house? My house isn't for sale, you know? And so we go the opposite direction. We go look for people that are in very specific pain. And so one piece of pain that we look for is foreclosure, right? So what we do is we go to people in foreclosure and we go, hey, looks like you're $12,000 behind. I can catch up your $12,000, save you from foreclosure, and give you a couple $1,000s to move out of the house into an apartment. Is that something that you would want? The homeowner goes, yeah, I would do that all day long. And do you think that homeowner cares about a balloon on the payments that I just took over of their mortgage?
Probably not even thinking about that.
They're not. And so I go specifically after homeowners that's not even a motivation of theirs. Okay. And I'm going after homeowners that also have 2%, 3%, 4% mortgages that typically are already $5,000 to $7,000 behind. And why don't they just sell the house is because they bought the house in like 2020, 2021, 2022, and now the market has gone down a little bit and they have no equity. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so when they don't have equity, an agent can't help them. No agent can help them, right? So when they don't have equity, I buy their house, it's called Subto, where I'm buying their house subject to the existing mortgage and I just take over the existing mortgage, right? In those situations, I very, very rarely will ever have a balloon, okay? Now, the RV park that I just bought in Montana, that is primarily seller finance, which means the guy doesn't have any debt, right? He owns it almost free and clear. Why would he give me seller finance?
Well, can you say that part again?
Okay, so there's a difference between subject to and seller finance, okay?
Yeah.
You have an iPhone, right?
Yes.
Okay, is it paid off or do you have a payment on it?
Well, now it's paid off.
Okay, but at one point you had a payment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I went to you and I said, hey champ, I want to buy that iPhone from you, but I need to make payments on the phone because I don't have the money all up front, right? And you go, yeah, man, well, I could sell it cash right now on Craigslist for like $800, but I'll give it to you for $1,000 if you make me 10 monthly payments of $100, okay? That's seller finance. You're the seller and you're financing my payments. You become the bank, you hand the phone over to me and I make a $100 payment to you, right?
Yeah.
The benefit to the seller is that the seller got 20% higher purchase price and was able to sell it like almost immediately, right? So the biggest benefit to creative finance is that the seller gets more money, okay? Now, let's say that I went to you during the time where you had payments on the phone and I said, hey, can I buy that phone from you at $100 a month? And you go, well, you can't because I don't actually own the phone entirely outright. I own it, it's my phone, but I owe payments to the bank. I would go, oh, that's easy. I'll just take over those payments and I'll make those payments instead of you having to make those payments. That is called subject to.
Okay, so that's kind of like a lease trader? Because I figure like lease trader.
Yeah, it's just me taking over existing payments that you had on your phone versus you owning your home. I'm buying the phone in both situations, right?
Yeah.
The difference is if you own the phone outright and you have no debt on it, that means it's seller finance. If you have a payment on that phone and I take over those payments, that's called subject to.
Okay.
You're okay. The way you say okay means that I feel like you still don't understand it entirely.
finance, they own it.
Yep.
And then subject to is if they have remaining payments.
There you go.
So if I own a house, but I still owe Chase or Wells Fargo $200,000 in equity, and someone presented this option to me, it would be considered subject to.
That is correct.
Yeah. So what would they do in that situation if they wanted to go buy something else? So
Okay.
I guess that's like the hard part for me to explain that to somebody. It's like, well, what do I do if I still have this mortgage payment under my name and I want to go purchase something else?
Okay, so you're talking about debt to income ratio, right?
Yeah.
Can we agree that there are landlords out there that own 10, 20, 30 houses?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so how do they go get 10, 20, 30 houses and get loans on all of them?
I would imagine that they're showing income from the rental properties in order to kind of keep that number like, hey, I got this money coming in, so this shouldn't affect my debt to income ratio as much or at all, kind of a thing.
Okay, so why would it be any different for the homeowner that sold the house to me if I show that the payments are being made? How is it not any different? I'm just posing the question to make you think, right? So
Yeah.
the answer is we do the same thing. I've done subject to transactions probably 2,000 or 3,000 times, but I've had this exact question pop up about 400 times. Okay?
Yeah.
So the seller comes to me and he says, hey, Pace, I want to sell my house to you and let you take over my payments, but I'm already in the process of buying another house. The people I'm buying my next house with have told me specifically that they won't give me a loan until I pay off my existing payments. And I go, okay, well, that's really easy. How about we just show them that I'm the one making the payments and now your debt to income ratio has been overtaken? And the sellers are always like, it can't be that simple. I'm like, I promise you it is. Let me talk to your underwriter or your processor of the mortgage for the new house, and let me show them that we're the ones making the payments, and they'll wipe it off your debt to income ratio.
Okay. And you just show them the contract that
Yep.
between you and I that I'm taking over the payments, and then.
Yep. I'm going to throw a wild card at you, something you've probably never heard of before. We use a company called a servicing company. Okay. These servicing companies, there's thousands of them. In fact, you probably make payments to servicing companies for your mortgages instead of directly to the bank. Is that correct?
I think there's like some that go direct to Chase, and then the
Yep.
other two have like, yeah.
It's a weird company that you're like, I don't even know the name of it. Yeah. So those are called servicing companies. So what they do is they service the mortgage, right? So when I take over somebody's payments, I hire a servicing company, which is a licensed third party to handle payments. And when the homeowner goes to get a second loan or a third loan or whatever it is, they take the documentation from the servicer and they show it to the new lender and they say, here's a licensed third party company handling the payments coming from Pace, covering my old payments on my old house, showing that this should not be counted in my debt to income ratio. It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's like so simple that people are like, wait, it can't be that simple. It is that simple.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was very confused on that, like wondering, like, well, what do they do? Like, if I want to go now downgrade to an apartment, and then you're covering my payments, I now have that money freed up to go spend it elsewhere, because obviously I can't afford to pay for a house, so I would imagine I'm going to go rent. I'm just putting myself in the seller's shoes to see how I would think like them,
Yep.
to kind of understand what the seller would do or the questions that they might have in those exact situations.
Of course. I put a lot of these phone calls I have with sellers on my YouTube channel. And some of these conversations are an hour long, 2 hours long, where I'll go through every little objection that they have. And so, yeah, we run into the same objections that you pop up with all the time. But remember, okay, are you in foreclosure right now?
Are you asking me or are you asking?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
No,
right?
no.
Okay, so
Oh, no.
remember, these people are in painful situations. They're losing their house. They've lost their job. Their wife has been cheating on them. Something bad's been going on in their life, and their mortgage payments are already behind. So what we're doing is we're going into these people and saying, let us catch up your payments, get your credit back in good repair, get your mortgage back in good standing, and actually help you out, right? So if you're gonna think about the questions that people are gonna have, you gotta think about it from the perspective of the type of sellers that we're actually talking to. Not just like walking to somebody's house down your street and saying, sell your house to me and let me take over your payments. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get that.
What other questions you got?
So what do people normally give you for your terms on, I guess, the length of the loan? Like, is it always 30 years for the most part, or?
Well, if it's a subject to deal, remember there's already a loan in place. So
There's already a loan.
I don't need to fight or negotiate on terms. I just say, let me take over your payments, whatever those payments are. You know, sometimes I'll take over a loan that's already 10 years old. So I only have 20 more years on the loan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so what if somebody bought the house 2 years ago? Well, now I got 28 years left on the loan, right? What if somebody bought the house 6 months ago? Well, now I got 29 years and a half left on it. However, let's say that I'm buying this RV park up in Montana right now. That seller owes almost nothing on that property. So he's actually seller financing. The majority of that deal is all his equity. It's all his ownership. First and foremost, why would he do that? You got to answer the question of why would a seller do that for you to understand what's really going on here. Why would a seller finance such a large amount of money to me?
Seller finance, not Subto.
Correct. Why would they do that?
I mean, maybe they get a better interest rate, or it's a safer thing for them with their money versus the market or something. That's like what I would think.
Okay, so first and foremost, if you're taking notes, here's the number one thing. It is mind-boggling to me that people do not think about this. The seller receives a higher purchase price first and foremost when they do seller finance, okay? So the objective is to make as much money as possible, right?
Yes.
So think about this. If you go do a fight and they say, hey, champ, we'll pay you $1 million up front today, or we'll pay you $2 million over the course of 3 years, which one are you going to choose as a smart businessman?
I'm going to wait and take my money over the time.
Okay, so remember, when people ask me, why would a seller finance things to me, there's the answer right there.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the answer right now. So we can check the box on that silly little question. That question has been answered. I have a seller that sold to me 2 years ago, and I go, why did you sell to me on seller finance? And I made a YouTube video out of it. And he gave me 19 reasons why. Let me give you reason number one, I just told you. The seller can sell to you at a higher purchase price than he could have if he sold it on the cash market. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Number two, always number two for some reason. It's taxes, okay?
Yeah, I didn't even think about capital gains.
There we go. Ding, ding, ding. You are the winner.
Yeah.
So think about this. If you understand capital gains, does it actually make any sense for a seller to sell to you on cash? No. While most people are asking me, why would a seller sell to you on seller finance? My question back to them is, why the hell would they not?
Yeah.
It's because they have a bad real estate. By the way, most real estate agents and brokers are idiots. They're not investors. They don't know anything about actual capital gains. They don't coach their clients up and say, hey, just so you know, Mr. Client, when you go sell this RV park for $7 million that you bought 10 years ago for $3 million, you're going to have a $7 million taxable event on day one.
Yeah.
So why would you, as a broker, not tell your seller, hey, dude, just so you know, I think you should sell it for $11 million and give somebody seller finance, because you'll be able to mitigate and stretch out your capital gains so that you can keep a lot more of your money.
Yeah.
But why would a broker not say that? Why is this not common knowledge?
I mean, I got my license in New York, so from what I remember, we weren't taught that.
You weren't taught that. There you go. There's the reason. You're not taught any of this stuff. And so it's only the agents that actually go out and start doing business and working with investors that actually learn this stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, you have a bunch of fake questions, right? You ever worked out with somebody that starts asking questions and you're like, dude, just get in the gym and you'll learn it all, right? What you're doing is you're standing outside the gym asking me every question under the sun about MMA, right?
Yeah, I never had anyone make that analogy.
This is what it's like. I go to you and I go, hey, will you do a workout with me? And you go, yeah. And I'm calling you 5 days before and I'm like, hey, what shoes should I wear? What thing should I wear? And you go, dude, You could wear jeans and flip-flops. I don't care. Just get your ass here, and you're gonna learn through imperfect action, and you'll learn what you do and don't like, and then you'll go figure out what clothes you want. Like, that's a silly question for you to ask me right now, but telling me that's a silly question is almost impossible because you've been there, I haven't, and so you're gonna be nice. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, go get the gym shorts and go get the this and go wear this, and I like this, but in the back of your mind, you're like, dude, this guy's overthinking, right?
Yeah.
Then when I
like that.
when I get into the gym, everything that I thought I knew goes away, and I start having real questions based on a real workout we just did. And hey, why did you tell me to do this with my left hand? Oh, great question. Because of this, 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 and this, right? So what I'm asking you to do in real estate is I'm asking you, hey, I'm gonna bring you into a deal that's gonna cost you no money, no responsibility, no management, no risk, to show you how to do your first workout. And then based on that deal, you're gonna have 15, 20, 50 questions, but it's gonna be about a specific deal rather than hypothetical fake stuff, right?
Got you.
Then the question of, I wanna do more of this or I don't wanna do more of this can actually come up because you've actually done your first workout, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, so I'm with you now on that.
Okay.
I think if I had started with that, I think if you started me with that, I think it would have cut out all the other questions that I had right out of the gate.
Well, I did. Here's the funny thing is, I did. I took 20 minutes to explain to you, I want to bring you in on deals, handle the management, do the money, and then I want to take you to the next level of multifamily and fund to funds and all that kind of stuff. I did. The problem is, it's the first time you've heard it. And because it's the first time you heard it, sometimes you have to hear it twice and maybe a different angle or a different whatever. So I'm just reiterating very simply what I said in the first 20 minutes of the conversation.
Yeah. I guess I just heard it differently.
Yeah, because I said it differently. Yeah, and sometimes that's what it takes, right?
My goal, honestly, is when I'm done fighting, I would love to have enough real estate that pays me. I made a good amount of money just competing, and I save, I plug into real estate already. So I just don't want to have to go back to actually having to find a traditional job. Like, I think I've done enough to earn the lifestyle I built, and I want to just use real estate as that vehicle to kind of keep it going and use my influence to kind of do other things and other projects. You're thinking
too small, but that's okay. That's what happens, right? It's like you never thought you would be where you are right now in fighting when you first started either.
Yeah.
And so you got to start small with your goals, and $10,000 a month is a smaller goal to have. Think about it. That's 10 Airbnbs making you $1,000 a month net after all expenses. That's $10,000. There's only 10 houses, right?
Yeah.
It's not a lot. And when you're buying properties the way that I buy properties, where you're just taking over people's mortgages, well, I'm not going through banks, and I'm not going through real estate agents, and I'm not looking and searching for deals. I have the cheat code to real estate. So could you get to 10 houses within 12 months? Easy. Could you get to 12 houses within 6 months? Probably. Could you get to 50 houses in 24 months? The answer is probably yes. You get to 50 houses, you're at $25,000 to $30,000 a month in net cash flow. Like, this is all phases.
Yeah, no, trust me, I come from home beginning, so that would just be sick. But,
yeah.
I mean, I would love that. I would 100% love that.
Okay, cool. Any other questions before I get working on homework?
No, I'm good to go, man. That was perfect, and I think that analogy, especially for someone who overthinks everything before they do stuff, I think that made it so much simpler for me to kind of like, well, this is my protection. I don't need to spend my time doing all the other stuff and be good to go. Yeah,
this is, to sum this up very simply, I have worked my guts out to get where I'm at, right? You have worked your guts to get to where you're at. Guys like you and I should be collaborating instead of you coming into my world and saying, how do I recreate everything that Pace did? I don't want to, that's stupid. Just leverage me, right? And leverage my experience. Let's go do a bunch of deals together, and you'll compound and get new relationships and new opportunities, and you'll find different ways to make money beyond me in real estate. But I'm a good way for you to just be opening up the gate into real estate, an easier way than going through a real estate agent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, man.
Thanks, Pace.
See ya. All right, guys, how cool is that phone call? It's weird. Real estate can take you to places you never thought was even possible. By the way, if you guys have people you want me to collaborate with and buy houses with, make a comment down below of who you would want me to collaborate with. And on your way down there, please hit the subscribe button. Who cares about the notification bell? You won't hit it anyway, but at least give us a subscribe. We know we're doing a good job. See ya.